All right, I'm going to read a short little excerpt from the book. Uh, so I can kind of give you a little insight to this guy, my character, Chip. He had a bad night the night before, just crappy, as bad as it gets, right? So he can't sleep. He gets up in the morning, just before sunrise. And this chapter's called Don't Cry, Coyote. I wake up feeling afraid. I got dressed, grabbed a bunch of candy bars off the table, shoved them in my pockets, and left. I know my mom was awake, but she didn't say anything, and neither did I. I felt like shit. It was barely light outside, dead quiet, and here I was walking around like a zombie. All I needed now was for a cop to come down the street and ask what I was doing. Well, officer, I'm just out for my morning crap, I would say. Stop being a smart ass and answer the question or I'll throw your ass in jail, he would say. Yes, sir, I would say, and I would salute him. Then I thought, what if a cop did come by and asked me to empty my pockets and found my stolen candy bars? I couldn't believe it. I went to bed with a head full of crap and woke up with it still there. I walked down to the corner where I usually met Steve and plopped my ass on the curb. I felt exhausted. My face felt droopy and I was hungry. I looked around to make sure there wasn't a cop, then pulled out a candy bar and took a bite. I started to cry. I was busy feeling sorry for myself when I saw something move out of the corner of my eye and looked up. At first I thought it was a mangy dog, but then I realized it was a coyote. He must have spotted me at the same time because he stopped dead in his tracks right in the middle of the street and stared at me. I stared right back. He was a worn-out, nasty-looking sucker, and I felt like he was sizing me up, trying to figure out if he could eat my ass or not. I felt a little afraid, but my adrenaline was pumping, and I figured I could kill the son of a bitch if he came at me. But he didn't. He just stared at me. I had seen coyotes at the Bronx Zoo with my dad before when I was a kid, but never out in the open. And then the strangest thing happened. He lowered his head, stretched his neck out toward me, stuck his nose up and out, and started sniffing. I realized he was smelling my damn candy bar. It made me laugh a little. The mangy son of a bitch was hungrier than I was. I unwrapped my candy bar and flung it in his direction. He didn't hesitate. He went right for it and gobbled it up in one bite. He stood there in the middle of the street staring at me. He had some sad-ass looking eyes, and I felt sorry for him. I pulled another bar out of my pocket and wrapped it and flung it in his direction. Right in the middle of his gobbling that sucker up, the squeal of tires broke the silence as a truck came careening around a corner. I jumped to my feet and watched the truck run right over that poor bastard. No, I yelled. But to my frickin' surprise, it didn't touch one hair on his mangy ass head. He bolted off behind a house and disappeared into the backyard. Now that's what you call a fucking miracle. I stood there laughing out loud saying, no way, no way. I sat back down and waited for him to come back, but he never did. I wanted to thank him for making me feel better. I could hardly wait for Steve to get there so I could tell him about the coyote. He was probably going to tell me I was bullshitting because shit like that just doesn't happen. My mind filled up with all kinds of thoughts about how the coyote could have been splattered all over the goddamn street, and what would I have done? Would I have cleaned up his mashed body, or would I have just taken off and forgotten about the mess? Then I thought, what if that were me? Done. Over. Dead. I must have been sitting there thinking about this for a long time because Steve came up behind me and slapped me in the head and said, "What's up, asshole?" He scared the crap out of me, and I yelled at him and told him he was an asshole. We talked to each other that way a lot. It was our way of saying we missed each other. On the way, as we hitched to Frank's house, I told him the coyote story, and sure enough, he told me I was bullshitting. First, he said it would be impossible for a truck to run him over and not crush at least a leg or something. And besides, he had never seen a coyote in all the years he had lived in this neighborhood, which was since he was born. I swore to him it was the truth, but he said he wasn't going for it because if he believed me, I would just make fun of him for being such a sucker. He had a point. I did like to tease him about stuff because he believed pretty much anything I told him. I couldn't help but think of the story about the boy who cried wolf all the time. But there was never a wolf until one day there was. And nobody believed him. And I think he got his ass eaten. I laughed because the whole experience seemed funny and stupid. I was crying coyote and nobody believed me. But it was true. It really did happen. That's it.